What is up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Tuesday night. Tuesday night means one thing. We're live. It's Doc Talk time. We've got a brand new episode, brand new panel, and we're coming at you live. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. It is sure darn good to see you. We're glad you guys can make it. We're broadcasting live tonight, Jackson Kayak Fishing, Jackson Kayak YouTube, and the USA Bass and Jackson Kayak Trail Facebook page. So we're hitting a few different spots here tonight. We've got a new panel. Tonight's big thing. What are the benefits of kayak tournament fishing? This is something you should try. So that's kind of where we're taking off for tonight. We've got our new panel. There's our other one. So we've got a new panel. We're going to go around the room. We'll start with Marcus. Let us know where you're from and what Jackson kayak you are fishing from this season, bud.
Hey man, I'm from Mitchell, Indiana, but I live in Clarksville, Indiana now. I'm fishing out of an RFD, and it is loaded to the core, like all the way. Fitting as much stuff as I can in that sucker. I can't hear you, Jim.
Moving on down, we got Josh Evans. Where you hail from, and what kayak are you fishing in this season? I'll try to remember to unmute myself from moving forward.
I wasn't sure what happened.
It's all good. Hey, what's up, y'all? Joshua McEvans to you from Brunswick, Maryland. This season, I am paddling a couple of Jacksons, splitting my time between a lovely murdered out Coosa X and now also a murdered out Take 2. So I have my Ultimate River setup and then my tidal rivers and lake/reservoir rig.
Moving on, Mr. Jason Cassetty, where you hail from, and what Jackson kayak are you fishing in this season?
Good evening, gentlemen. Originally Indianapolis, Indiana. Currently migrated south, and we live in Hickson, Tennessee, on the shores of Lake Chickamauga. Loving life down here, and I'm paddling Chickamauga. Started off the year on the BSB, the Angler 360, and now am back in the Bite FD. I don't know why I can't get away from that silly little boat, but it's especially with that Mark IV, it's like a little go-kart out there.
It is. It's a fun boat. All great boats out here tonight. So we got a lot of the premium FD boats, the premium river boat, and that's good to see. That is good to see. So we're jumping in tonight. We're just going to dive right in. We've got a few questions here, and as always, audience, feel free to ask your questions as we move along. We'll try to throw those up on the screen. You guys are also, as Doc Talk goes, free to ask each other questions. There's no rhyme or reason. If you got a question, you're curious about what somebody said, feel free to ask it. That's how Doc Talk works. We're all the host, we're all the guests, and yeah, let's get this party started. So, kayak fishing tournaments, what are the benefits? We're going to dive right in with a line of questioning that I think might keep our viewers, somebody besides my mom watching. So we'll kick it off from there. So what got you guys hooked on kayak fishing tournaments? And we'll start with Jason.
Um, I've always liked competition of all kinds, growing up as a kid playing, soccer or t-ball and baseball, basketball, all the good team sports. So, I always had those competitive juices and love Saturday mornings at grandma and grandpa's house watching fishing. And, when you start, seeing Bob Cobb and the Bassmaster, kind of gets you that promo before the show starts where everybody's setting hooks and, the kneel and reel, all those, it's just like, oh, I got to do that. I just wanted to go, competitively fish. And, in the big boat world, it can be very expensive. But yeah, starting down there with kayak anglers of Southern Indiana, yeah, that's where, kayak tournaments started for me. And I haven't looked back. I think it's the bee's knees and probably the best thing you could do to get outside.
Mute yourself again, Chad.
Chad's quiet.
How about you, Josh? A lot of practice.
Yeah, man. So very similar to Jason, I'm a ultra competitive person. Um, I started out, tournament fishing on the bass boat side as co-angler, and as Jason alluded to, that can be mad pricey when you want to buy your own rig and try to do all that. So the wife actually was like, "Yeah, nah, that ain't happening." And just so happened around that same time, I ended up helping out at a Heroes on the Water event, and my buddy said, "Hey, man, we've got this wonderful trail out here, Mid Atlantic Kayak Bass Fishing Series, and you should come out. You'd like to compete." And I got out there, and I was hooked, man. Like, had a great time. I got my butt kicked, teeth kicked in, so to speak, that first season. And then I switched over to a Jackson Big Tuna, and I've been doing that ever since. And that was about 12 years ago that I started, the competitive kayak fishing. And I'll tell you, aside from the competitive aspect, the biggest thing for me is, I served in the Army for 10 years, and the friendships and the bonds, the brotherhoods that were created there are something that are very hard to replicate or make happen again in a different way. And my kayak fishing family, that it spans the whole nation, man. I've got buddies and best friends in damn near every state, it feels like. And I can attribute all of that to kayak tournament fishing. So I'm very, very thankful and blessed with that, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
How about you, Marcus?
Yeah, I grew up similar to those guys, playing team sports and all that too, but got a little older and the individual sports kind of stood out to me a little more. Then I got a little older and then I found fishing. I grew up fishing farm ponds a little bit, but I actually started really focusing in on catching bass once I got a little older and got a kayak and jumped into a little derby that Chad was putting on, and I had so much fun doing that it just snowballed into what I'm doing now. And I really like the competition. I like the friendships that I've made, traveling with friends, making new friends when you go all these different places, man. It's just awesome. And you're competing with yourself more than these other people, so you can be friends about it. It's not like you're playing defense on them and stuff. So
Right on. So kayak fishing tournaments is obviously the topic, but how does a kayak fishing tournament differ from a regular bass boat tournament? And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Josh on this one.
What was the question? You totally cut out, Chad.
Oh, so the question is, what is the difference between kayak fishing tournaments and bass boat fishing tournaments?
God damn it.
I think we lost him again. He's froze. How about you, Jason? We'll let you take that one.
Like Josh had alluded to earlier, that camaraderie there is huge, and that's something you definitely don't get a lot of in the boat tournaments. Now, like if you're fishing a small club tournament as a bass boat, you might get some of that, buddy stuff, but you get anything outside of that, like Hoosier Open Team Tournament or a BFL, and certainly on into the opens and levels like that. They're out for blood. Everybody's, running and gunning like it's a final day of the Bassmaster Classic, and darn it, if you are in their way, there's going to be hell to pay on the bank. You know what I'm saying? And you don't get that in the kayak world nearly as much. There's a couple drama queens out there and kings, but for the most part, that stays away, and we're all pretty tight out there on the water. So I think that's the biggest difference. And obviously, we don't have live wells, so there's that.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add, Marcus?
Yeah, man, I like that barrier of entry, man. Like, that's what drew me. Like, I had to just have the boat and have a vehicle to get me where I was going, and I was good. So I didn't have to put gas in the boat. I didn't have to do much of anything else. I just had to get there and go fishing, and it was easy. And like you said, like, you make a lot of good friends doing this, and everybody is respectful out on the water. I feel like kayak wise, at least. Like, sometimes you get some boaters that suck, but for the most part, honestly, like, they're used to us at this point. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to move on to the next question for you, Josh, and kind of let you lead off on this one. And this is fun because everybody in the group kind of started with a very small trail in the youth of kayak fishing. So what are some of the main perks of joining a kayak fishing club?
Dude, there's really so many. The camaraderie, the friendships you build, I think, are one of the biggest things. MAKBF, the trail that I started with and that I still fish with, actually. It's a bunch of great anglers. We compete all over the Mid-Atlantic. So not only are you learning, different bodies of water and how to compete on different types of water instead of just being what's the word? Some people are really masters of one particular water style, whereas, with the style of tournaments we're doing and the region that we're covering, we really have to kind of master so many different types of body of waters and be good at all of them. So that it's really helped me learn and be a better competitor and a better angler overall. And again, it's just helped me build some really fantastic relationships, whether it be with other anglers, other kayak fishermen, local municipalities, sponsors, you name it. I mean, it's been just fantastic. And it's also actually enabled me to help other trails grow, like our USA Bassin JK Trail. Rudy Yarworth does a fantastic job pretty much running 3 of them out here. And I've got to help him with, kind of advising and steering him in the right direction. We've got another trail out here, Chesapeake Reel Masters, who's also newer in the last 2 years. And I've been able to help with a lot of advising and directing with them to get them going in the right direction and continuing to build and grow. So it's been really cool, man. Just it's a full an evolution from the beginning infant stages and the learning stages to now I'm advising and helping others grow the sport even more out here. And it's all based because of that initial grassroots trail and engagement.
But you, Marcus, what are some of the perks that you found since joining up with a kayak fishing club?
Dude, it's seriously like the friendships, because I started fishing down, and when I went to fish with you all up in Indiana, at least I knew a couple people. But when I started fishing Kentucky, I didn't know anybody. When I started fishing some of that Tennessee stuff, I didn't know anybody. Everybody's so cool. They would give you the shirt off their back. You need a life jacket if you forgot yours, if you lost yours or something. If somebody at the ramp has an extra, they're giving it to you. If they got an extra catch board, they're giving it to you. Everybody's awesome about that kind of stuff. Like, if they got an extra kayak, they're gonna let you borrow it. That kind of stuff. It's awesome. It's cool. All the people I've met have been awesome. There's a few here and there, but for the most part, everybody's awesome. It's fun.
What do you got, Jason? Anything you want to add, or?
Yeah, I think if you can get in with a small club, it's going to be less intimidating. If it's something in your local area, it's a really good way to meet like-minded people. I think most of the people in the kayak space, for whatever reason, bleed the same blood. You know what I mean? And then when you want to go fish, which I encourage folks to fish these bigger national events, or you travel, you qualify for like the Jackson Kayak Classic at the end of the year, and you're traveling across the country. Now you got your people, your tribe that you fish with on Tuesday nights that you guys can go and meander up there, and you're not doing it on your own. You know, it's that camaraderie can help bring on more friendships. And then, like Josh alluded to in an earlier conversation, is you can literally travel all across the country and have somebody you can hang out with, go have a steak and a beer with, get you out of a jam if you're in a tight spot. I mean, Nicole and I have had so many people help us out, or we just shack up with them, you know, stay over the night with them. And it's awesome. And that all comes from starting out small and then growing your network a little bit bigger.
Dude,
Yeah, and this is a perfect segue into this next question, Jason, and we'll just keep going with you if that's okay. Can you share maybe one cool experience that you've had at a kayak fishing tournament?
Yeah, I mean, well,
Is that a decent one?
so many very memorable experiences, most of which, you know, we can share across the airways. But you know, a couple that stick out: the FLW deal that we did back in, I think it was 2017, 2018. They teamed up with the KBF at the time. That was a really cool run event before FLW got bought out by Boyd Duckett and them. But being on that stage with Chris and, you know, be like, I got a 5 bass limit, you know, it was just, and he was like, wow, it was so cool. I mean, that to be on TV and to ask him to get a wow up on stage, you know, that was probably one of the coolest things that happened to me. And now it's up literally in my backyard. It's right down the street where that took place at Dayton Boat Dock.
Yeah, that's something that, you know, looking back at the past, that's easy to forget, and it was a neat thing. How about you, Josh? What is one of the cool experiences that you've taken from kayak fishing tournaments?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of them, honestly. I won my first angler of the year after all these years last year, and that was a pretty surreal experience. You know, you work really hard for that kind of thing, and you spend a lot of time away from your family, and it finally pays off. So that was super cool, man. That was probably one of my favorite moments ever. And then I'd say a really close number 2, maybe even number 1. My first kayak fishing tournament I ever won was in February on the warm side of Lake Anna. They generated power. And so they call it the warm side. The water was like 40 degrees, but the air temps were below freezing. The main lake was frozen over, and I flipped my kayak in like 30 feet of water, almost died. Had some guys close by that came and helped fish me out, and I didn't drown. I called the tournament director, and I said, hey, I think I've got the winning fish on my phone. Don't give away no money. I'll be there in a minute. And made it back and ended up winning, and used the winnings to buy a bunch of my gear that I lost when I turtled, and also gave it to some of the guys that helped fish me out. So it was pretty dope.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great story. How about you, Marcus?
Man, one of my favorites is last December. I was driving down to Dale Hall to fish the Tennessee Bass Nation. I was meeting up with a couple buddies, but on the way down, I was just about to E-Town from Louisville area, and my water pump went out, and when it did, it blew out my fan and all kinds of stuff. So my buddy Tim Howard came, drove all the way from his house by Nolan Lake. It was at least an hour. Picked me up, used his AAA, and got my truck to his house. And then we just put all my stuff on his trailer and in his truck, and we drove down to Dale Hollow to fish that tournament. And I ended up tying for second place. I lost the tiebreaker and just had a blast. I caught so many awesome fish that day and just had a blast, and didn't worry about my truck, didn't worry about anything, because he had my back. And when we got back, we fixed it, and I drove home that Sunday, you know, and it was just doing that after I don't know, just being able to put that on the back burner for now, because I knew we were going to be able to figure it out. And one of my boys from the from the trail came and saved me, and had an awesome day fishing, and it all worked out. Made some money, paid for my truck. Man, that was one of my favorite things. And then weighing in at Pickwick Lake after a college Bassmaster one time, we got to use their stage. That was pretty cool too, like being able to get up on an actual Bassmaster college stage or whatever that we used for the Bass Nation was pretty cool. So
That's bad memories, Marcus. Why you gotta bring that up?
oh, you had to turn around and go home.
Yeah, I didn't think I made it. I didn't think I cashed in. I think I finished 4th or something in that tournament. I was like, I gotta get home to my wife, and I was.
Oh, dude, you all had some stuff to do. I remember.
Yeah.
I passed you on the road, and we would have been up there
So-
together.
And Marcus, we're going to go into this next question with you. What are some of the skills that you can pick up from tournament fishing?
Oh man, I think just like grinding. That's my biggest skill. I think it's just grinding. That's whenever I can. That's when I do the best, when people give up, or it's so tough and so windy and so dirty and so whatever that people kind of give up or take breaks, and that's when I shine because I don't stop. I think. I don't know if that's true, but I think just making the most cast. I don't have any kind of forward facing or anything, so I just make a bunch of casts. I try and just keep that lure in the water, and you don't get bit if that's not going down. So that's the biggest thing I've picked up is just just going fast and trying to figure it out, or slowing down and picking it apart, one or the other. That's what I love
How
about
about you,
the kayak.
Josh?
I can get shallow and do whatever. Sorry, Josh.
Man, I'd say patience, I think, is a really big one. I fish a lot of tidal waters, so sometimes the bite it will turn on and off with the tides, and you have to kind of learn to be patient with that, or get resourceful and have your spots in your day planned out to move with the tide. I'd say that, and also really just learning how to put it all in perspective. I remember when I first started tournament fishing, I used to get really down on myself when I'd lose, or when I wouldn't perform, or like I'd go to a national championship and day one I'd be in like the top 10, and day two I would just the wheels would fall off, and I would spin out, and my whole trip home would be just like beating myself up mentally. Oh God, I never sold all my stuff, but the thoughts go through your head for sure. And all these years later, I've learned to really just, put in perspective. I mean, dude, I'm still fishing. I'm still having a good time. My wife, she jumped on me about it a bunch of years ago, and she's like, "You big dummy." She goes, "Are you having fun?" She goes, "Because you don't seem like you're having fun. You seem like you're miserable when you come home." And I said, "Well, yeah, I had a blast. I spent a week with some of my best friends, and, we did a bunch of stupid things, and we caught a bunch of fish." And she goes, "Well, then focus on that, stupid." And I said, "You're right." And I've kind of keep that in the back of my head all the time now. Just remember to have fun and why I'm doing it, because if you get too caught up in the competitive aspect of it, which a lot of us do because it is competition and you want to win, it takes the fun out of it, man. And you really don't perform as well.
Mr. Cassidy.
I definitely agree. When you're not having fun, when you can just relax and fish, you definitely fish a lot freer and a lot more successful. Those big ones come in, and that skill sets, I guess, organization. You're in a tight spot. It's a good life lesson out there. My wife will tell you that I haven't quite mastered that skill, and she's probably right. But organization and time management. There's a clock in fishing just like any other sport, and whether you got a long run, pedal, paddle, power, however you get there, you got to be able to manage your time. So it definitely is a skill. And then probably my faith is a skill that we all get to work on when we fish, because I tell you what, if everybody prayed like they pray to God when they got a 5-pounder dangling at the end of the boat and trying to get in the net, if we all prayed that well every day, world would be a good place, Chad. I promise.
So let's get into the nuts and bolts of things a little bit. People always like the nuts and bolts gear talk, a little inside scoop, little information. Um, what is some of the specific gear and prep that beginners need to do to jump into a tournament?
Can I start with this one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, aside from, knowing, or having all the safety gear you need, right? Your whistle and your PFD, yeah, a flag, so boats can see and they don't run you over. And knowing, what your state requires for you to have on the vessel. I think the other big thing really for me in tournament prep has always been helpful, is, I prep all my gear as far ahead as I can. Usually, sometimes it ends up midnight the night before, but the preference is much sooner than that. And I'll write out a list based on the kind of water, time of year I'm fishing. I'll write out a list. Okay, I always take no more than 6 rods. What are the 6 rods going to be? And I'll basically tie all those baits on, make sure that the line is good, and tie all the baits on that I'm planning on using. And in my head, I walk through. My day is going to start out throwing, a walking boss, right? And then I might switch to a buzz bait if that's not really, they're not keen on that. And then I'll move over to a jackhammer or a spinner bait, depending on if there's wind or not. Baby 1-. And then if all that stuff goes, then what finesse baits am I throwing? Some Tactical Fishing Company swagger sticks. Like, I have it all mapped out in my head, and I plan it out the day prior, and I have my baits set up the way I want them in my kayak, ready for me to be able to reach for them if they're not already tied on. And it makes for a much more enjoyable experience the morning of the tournament, and a much more efficient experience as the tournament goes on. So for me, I'm not scrambling to try to retie or tie something on, because I already have that game plan mapped out in my head, and I have something kind of covering all of the different styles of fishing that I plan on doing.
Jason?
Yeah, for me, for if obviously it's probably not the first time you've ever fished, so have all that, you've got the gear that you probably need to get out there and fish. But one thing I would do in preparation for a tournament is just to fish your strength, especially your first couple. Don't go out there and try to reinvent the wheel. Just because you're in a derb does not automatically make you a PKA. So don't try to think you got to be somebody you're not, and fish like, well, Lunch Money throws a daggum chatterwagon over here, so I know that's what I got to do. Well, if you've never picked up a chatterbait, don't go throwing it because you think that's what you got to do. Or you saw Odd Defoe, telling the pontoon boats, crank it up, to generate some current. Don't think you got to be that guy. Just go out there, fish how you like to fish, and you'll probably have some success and then build some confidence. And then as you fish different areas, then you can start to add little nuggets, nuts and bolts, if you will, to your toolbox. Keep it small.
Yep.
Grubbs?
Yep, I'm with Jason on that. Just fishing your strengths and going out there and doing what you know to do. And I moved houses this year, and I'm not very organized right now. And I went to fish a derby a few weeks ago, and I got about 10 minutes away from the ramp, and I looked over, and I didn't see any rods in the passenger seat. I just had them out of place, like just out of sight, out of mind, and they were in a different room, locked up because we got cats running around now. And I just forgot them, and I drove all the way back and got them, and only lost about 45 minutes of fishing time, but I drove a lot, and it really wasn't fun. But yeah, just being organized, that's the big thing. Yeah, I love having all my stuff where I want it to be, and if you got time, do that 2 or 3 nights before if you can. If you got a couple hours or whatever at night, I love doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Tinkering with tackles, one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, because you're going to be jacked up in the morning, right? You're going to be jacked.
Yeah, you're going to hardly be able to tie a knot, dude.
You're ready to go. And the last thing you want to do is be running around trying to stuff rods in trucks and breaking off tips, and just get you some coffee and go.
Yeah, try and tie a leader knot right before a derby.
I was gonna say, Marcus, you're not alone, buddy. I'm notorious. If you ask anybody I fish with, I usually show up a couple hours late because I forgot a battery or something else at the house.
Right.
So that's
Yeah,
usually the days I
try
do
to be
best.
super early.
Yeah. What about you, Chad?
So
What's your ritual?
Ah,
you guys don't really want to know. So I
I
used
do.
to be very much I'm very much used to be like you guys and be very, want to have it ready, want to have it done. I could care less anymore. I've actually completely switched. It seems like the less I care, the better it goes. It's all a game of movers and shakers. I tend to, I'll carry 10 rods with me. Every rod's technique specific. So with that being said, everything's pretty well tied on at all times. That's gonna go through the rotation to start any day. The bait color may change, but that'll be about it. And it's nothing for me to, cruise up to the first spot and actually stop and retie something, because it gets me in the mindset of that I need to retie often, which is something that I struggled with early on, but it always seems like if I just care a little bit less, maybe, that my day flows a little bit better. If the music's right and I'm just in a good mood and I'm just out there fishing, then, it changes my entire outlook of the day. If I'm really organized and I've got like a mental game plan where I can see myself doing this or that, yeah, sometimes it won't go right. So, and I just dealt with that a couple weeks ago at Kentucky Lake in a 2-day tournament. I went out the first day, I was super organized and had everything right where I wanted it to be. And I messed up twice that cost us the day. Um, Day two, everything was in the boat from the night before. I just went out fishing. I didn't retie nothing. It was yesterday's line. Didn't care. And the day was successful. So I think it just depends. I mean, I think, you got to find what's right for you. Make sure you don't overhype yourself and go in calm and confident. And you got to do whichever thing makes it best for you.
Absolutely.
So that's my 2 cents. It's different. It's a different approach.
I like it.
So moving on in the questioning, I- how do you tell somebody what how do you know where to send somebody? What's the right tournament for that entry level skill level? I mean, obviously entry level, they don't need to go and pay $250 at Bassmaster or whatever the tournament is. I mean, there's a place where you can start and feel comfortable. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of chime in on ways to find different avenues for guys to find trails. Jason.
Yeah, well, I mean, where everybody's probably watching this on, like Facebook, Instagram. Uh, there's a plum million. If you just hit the search bar there, you could find so many different tournaments in just about every state. Just when you think there's an area that won't have a tournament, boop, there's another tournament. That is, word of mouth and tackle shops are great places to go to. A, they want your business, and B, they probably know if there's a tournament going on there. So, yeah, Facebook, tackle shops. If you can't find one there, just look at Tourney X. You can type in your lake, and you can find a specific tournament on that lake. It might be in 6 months, but hey, you find a tournament. So a lot of different ways to find them. They're not hard.
Anybody want to add anything to that, or you guys feel like that's pretty much the gist of it?
yeah, pretty much the gist of it. I found
I mean,
tournament trail on Facebook over 10 years ago, and that's what got me into it. So if I could do it 10 years ago, right now it should be pretty easy.
I think
They're
a good
everywhere.
rule of thumb too, though, obviously using that Facebook search, but once you've found multiple trails in your, region or vicinity, is actually going on those particular trails Facebook pages and engaging with the members. Um, Seeing if they're friendly, seeing if they're going to be welcoming, seeing, if it's ultra competitive or if it's more of a hey, let's chill and have beers after the tournament kind of vibe. Like a lot of those things can be good indicators of what the competition is going to be like. If it's going to be somewhere that you're going to feel welcome and that you're going to thrive and learn if you're a newer kayak angler, or if you're going to feel like, oh man, I'm outclassed and I don't, it's going to kill your confidence. So I think especially for new kayak anglers, It's imperative they do a little bit of research and try to reach out to some individuals at those different clubs and see that vibe. I think the vibe is everything.
Perfect.
So let's move on here to the next one. I'm actually trying to pick the question. I'm skipping a few. Um, gosh, some of them feel the same. So, you guys got any tips of anything else that, somebody new to tournament fishing might need to bring, something they might need to have with them?
Extra identifiers or laminated identifier.
Hmm.
I know earlier on in my tournaments, I ended up fishing in the rain and my identifier would get ruined, and now I'm scrambling trying to find one mid tournament. That's not never a good feeling. Um, and not necessarily something to have with them, but something to practice is your actual fish measuring and photo taking. Um, in a tournament setting. I think the biggest mistake I've seen is a lot of folks will go into a tournament and they don't have the fish oriented right, or they didn't pay attention to the rules on where they can and can't place their hands on the fish, and they end up getting unnecessary deductions. So I think that while it's not something to bring with you, it's definitely something to practice ahead of time.
All right. So here's the question I was looking for. How can kayak fishing tournaments help with conservation efforts?
Yeah. One, like just like MLF. Oh, go ahead.
You too. No, I think we were on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, you're not, taxiing fish from ramp to ramp, relocating fish. Just the other week, we were down at our dock, and some guys were over there fishing, and I said, "You doing any good?" It was like, "Yeah, just caught a 6-pounder." I was like, because she was spawned out. There was about an 8 sitting on a bed right by our dock, and I said, and she was spawned out, and I said, "How long was she?" And he said, "A little over 25 inches. That's how big my ruler is." I was like, "Oh God." And I said, "Where's your weigh-in at?" And he's like, "Wolf Teever." So if everybody's listening to this, my baby girl, she got moved to Wolf Teever boat ramp. So go out there and catch her. Please let me know. Bring her back. We'll link my phone number down there. But yeah, you don't move these fish all over the darn lake, and that's terrible for them. And the post tournament mortality on these fish during these summer tournaments is crazy. And that's a resource we all love and want to take care of. I know, you can have a certain limit and this, that, and the other, and you could kill them all if you wanted to, but those good quality fish that we're bringing to weigh-ins are the ones we don't want to eat. We don't want to kill those. We want those genes to pass down the line. So yeah, that would be the biggest thing for conservation and, for the overall sport of fishing as a whole goes.
So, Josh, I got one for you. What do you think one of the most common misunderstandings people have about kayak tournaments is?
Man, I'm trying to word this without using any profanity. um, so some of the places I compete, there's a lot of boat tournaments that are stacked, 150, 200 boat tournaments on top of kayak tournaments of the same size. And there's a lot of community holes and a lot of bass boats, they have this assumption that we can't find our own fish, or that we get on some kind of bent rod pattern, and but that just ain't so. I mean, I think that kayak anglers are some of the most um, detail oriented when it comes to having to break down water, because we don't have a big motor, we can't move. um, I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions, or you know a totally different thought is, the new people coming in, they see some of these huge, crazy, tricked out rigs that cost 10K plus to build out, right? With the dual graphs and forward facing sonar and 2 motors and all this other stuff, right? And you don't need all that. Like, I mean, there's guys I compete with that literally come out with a paddle and 1 rod and just smash, and they destroy everybody. You know what I mean? So you don't need to have a lot of money to come in and be competitive. That's why a lot of us joined into kayak tournaments in the first place.
Yeah, that's safe to say. It's kind of an accumulation of gear over time, and that might be
Yep.
why a lot of what people see is in existence. I mean, a guy might buy a motor, but that motor may last him for a long time. That graph might last for a long time to the point where, he's waited till the Bass Pro Shop sale come out and bought the second one to go with it or whatever. So there's definitely a lot of that. You don't have to have it all right now. And I think we do see a lot of that in the sport. For sure. I will agree with you 100%, Josh. I think, you know, it's easy to want to have what the Joneses have, but if you take your time and build the setup that works for you and kind of fish the way you want to fish, you're going to have a lot better experience. Anybody else got one for that one?
Yeah, one thing to add on to that is there's this, and it's back to bass boaters. Unfortunately, is two things: either A, we don't
Be
have
careful
money.
now.
Either A, the kayakers don't have money, or B, that we're somehow like in a JV league. I've heard the conversations, because whether people know it or not, sound travels really well across water. And you can hear a lot of things, but people will literally think that, well, that guy, he can't fish real tournaments because he's not that good, so he had to get a kayak. And I'm like, what? And these things happen. People say these things, and it's an elitist sport on all levels if you want to get to it in tournament fishing. But I think Ike and Greg DePalma and Jay Lee, they'll tell you that there's some sticks in these little pieces of Tupperware out there. So it's just because you fish in a kayak doesn't make you on the JV team. We're varsity up in here.
No, both are equally fun. Both, in my opinion, offer a different way to go bassing. I like both. I think it just offers something that is totally spectacular on both ends. One thing that we don't have in kayak fishing is a 70-mile-an-hour boat ride for 30, 40 miles before we get started. And that's something that's hard to replace. But kayak fishing's got its own thing. We can launch in the dark of the night and get out there to our first spot, and you're just there, and the darkness is there, and there's a lot of anticipation and a lot of nerves while you're just sitting there waiting, and you're looking at a screen, a 9, 10, 12-inch screen, and watching these fish going, man, I hope they stay there. I hope they stay there. I mean, it's two different worlds doing the same thing in different ways. So I think that's a pretty cool part of it, But yeah, there is some animosity between the two groups, and that's part of it. Anything for you, Marcus? What you got?
Just since we do get to launch like that, I have beat people to the spot that they were going to start on, and they most of the time are pretty cool about letting me have it till I'm done or whatever. But there's been a couple times people tried to encroach and got way too close, and you just talk to them about it, and usually they move on, or somebody moves on, or whatever. But everybody, if you talk about it, it's usually pretty cool.
Okay, the last question I'm going to ask you guys before I dive into some of the audience questions that I've starred along the way here. What do you guys think the future of kayak tournament fishing looks like?
It's
Where
a
do we
good
want it to
question.
go, or
Not all at once now. Not all at once.
Yeah. So the
Go
future,
ahead.
what's the future look like?
Crystal ball. Give me the crystal ball version.
Yeah. The crystal ball version would be that we all stop complaining and get back to just having fun fishing. But if we want it to be big, then we just need to come together, and I think it can be big. If we want to keep it small, and inclusive and open like it is now, I think the future is now. I think we're living it out. Steve's got a great trail he's running. USA Bassin got a farm club that can turn into a national event for you. You know, Vinny over there, he's got a good thing going. I mean, there's Drew Gregory, everybody's got trails that crisscross the country. There's tons of local stuff. I think if people like this, we're in it. If they want something bigger, it's definitely going to, like an elite series or something like that. It's going to take some serious unity. And in the fishing space, even in the kayak space, that can be pretty tough. There's a lot of divisiveness in there. A lot of people want it, but not a lot of people want to put in the work to get it to that point. But the future's good. We're growing the sport.
Future's good. Josh, got anything?
Yeah, I mean, well said, Jason. It's a lot of my same thoughts, really. I think, on the smaller level, it's great seeing a lot of small trails popping up, but in some areas it can get oversaturated rather quickly. And I think that in order for all of those smaller trails to continue to thrive and grow, I think there definitely has to be a lot of working together and coordinating, to not, overlap and have events on the same day. For example, this last Saturday we had an event. There was 4 trails all hosting events on different bodies of water on the same day, and attendance for all of them was super low. In contrast, those same 4 trails worked together a month prior and had fantastic turnouts for all 4 trails because they all held them on the same body of water in parallel with each other. So I think more consistently working together is a big, step in the right direction for the smaller trails. And I would love to see, kind of an overarching elite trail, maybe where like the top, 25 of Bassmaster, the top 25 of, the native big bass, or, you know what I'm saying? Some of the bigger national type trails, maybe have like a super championship with all of them. I love what Steve has been doing with Bassmaster. I love what we're doing with USA Bassin and the Jackson Kayak Trail. 100%. They're both vastly different, but both have an end goal that's still pretty damn cool, But I'd like to see it continue to evolve and grow, and I'd definitely like to see a lot of the pettiness go away as well.
Yeah. I definitely agree with both those guys on all that. But living so close to Kentucky this year and fishing so much in Kentucky, there's no trail in Kentucky this year. So definitely makes me wonder why nobody ever picked that up, so that everything else seems to be flourishing. I could go down to Tennessee and fish a tournament's got 100 people in it on a Saturday or whatever, but it is kind of weird that Kentucky didn't do anything. Nobody picked the ball up that was dropped, So it'd be nice to see Kentucky grow, at least if.
For sure.
If you're in the Kentucky area, please call
Yeah.
765-346-3705, and we can start you up a division of the Jackson Kayak Trail with you.
Yeah, please, and thank you. That's an interesting topic, because I think that's one big thing that, it does take people running events for the sport to continue to grow. And when you don't have those leaders anymore, we get a situation like what we're witnessing with the Kentucky thing, where it really, and not just the USA Bassin, where Kayaks and More, which was a shop, ended up closing down, and they were running it. It's really bigger than even that. There was other trails in Kentucky, and they just stopped altogether. It just quit. Nobody wanted to run it. And, that's really interesting that nobody wanted to, step up and be a leader in that space. And, I think that's the important thing as we move forward and all of us get a little bit grayer and a little bit grouchier and a little bit older. It takes a new group of people that's going to need to come along and step up and want to be the leaders and continue to see fishing of any type flourish and go on. Yes, it's cool to be the one out there competing, but like Saturday, and Jason knows as well, we have to pull off the water early during the tournaments and go handle the business end of it and make sure everybody gets paid and make sure everybody has fun. And, we get to go out there and fish, but, you know, it's just a little bit different on our end as far as running events and different things like that. And it's tough to sit back during a championship event when your friends are out there and they're catching fish. But you know what? The reward of it is, and I think Jason and I can both say this, seeing everybody have a good time and seeing the competition from a different angle, because when we're judging those fish at championship week, I know Jason is he's on it. I mean, it's insane. And they all come in at the last minute, of course. But there's fun to be had on both ends of it. And I think, if you're a true leader and you want to help grow the community and grow the sport and do those kinds of things, then, running a tournament might be something for you. I mean, like Josh alluded to, we don't really have a pro trail right now. So, there's no reason why folks can't, step up and help out and run some different things, even collab with, different clubs, or have a partner as a director where, maybe you're on one and they're on one, just every other one, you're switching it up. And, that kind of stuff goes over well. But yeah, I think the thing with Kentucky is definitely interesting that Marcus alluded to. And I'm just kind of rambling on about it. So I want to stop. And
Just shut
you got
up,
anything
Chad.
else? Shut
Yeah,
up,
let the
Chad.
people, I
Let the
know
people.
my wife and my mom and a couple other moms may be watching this, but as these things get traction out on the algorithms of Facebook and whatnot, leave a comment down here on what you would like. Like, we're tournament fishermen here and TDs here for tournaments. I'm curious to know what the massive of the kayak anglers want. Do they want a pro series? Do they want like an elite series where guys or gals can make, money doing it, like legitimate money? I mean, we've only got a handful of people that can say they make money in the kayak space now. I mean, let's say there's 100 people that could do it, or 50. Would you want that? Do you like it the same as it is now? Or do you wish it would all just burn to the ground and go away and never come back? Let us know down here. So, I mean, that's how conversations start. I've had several conversations like we're having here, but is that the norm? Is that what we all want? We want big tournaments. We want the same or none. Let us know.
Yeah. All right. Audience questions. Jesse, Mr. Jesse, always in the comments. What is the hardest part about kayak fishing for each of you gentlemen? So that's around the room. Whoever wants to go first.
For me, it's time. If I had more time and a little more money, I'd fish them all. I wish I could. It'd be awesome. I'd love to every weekend just go fish a derb. But I don't have the time. I don't have the money. But if I did, I would. It's that much fun to me.
I'd say, kind of along the lines of the same thing, juggling, life priorities, responsibilities, and then also just time away from my family. I've got a bunch of amazing kids and an amazing wife, and when I'm away, my wife has to kind of do it all, and she already works nights as a lab manager, so trying to find that balance where I'm being fair to her and also, not missing my kids too much, and still being able to go out. I think that's the hardest part, really, especially for the big championships and stuff where I'm gone for a week. Yeah, I have a great time, but I'm on the phone with them every night or a couple times a day, checking in and making sure that they don't have any boo-boos or scrapes, or making sure that I help celebrate their wins. And that's a tough part. That's part of the mental aspect of it, in my opinion, and the emotional aspect of it.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, and having that support at home is huge. Nicole and all the kids, even though they're all grown, but Nicole's always been very supportive of me going out there and fishing and chasing that dream. So I didn't have to worry about what was going on at home, or man, should I be spending more time with her? But she's like, maybe a bad thing. I don't know now that I think about it. But no, she's telling me, get out, go on, go fish. So that's for me is an easy part. The hard part is taking a picture on the board. Come on, America. Them things, them little slimy little grass pickles don't stick down. They're just dear.
He's preaching now. You're preaching now.
There's a spot right behind the dorsal fin. You gotta put your thumb.
Make us breakfast though before we went fishing. That's how much she was into it. She was waking up early to make us biscuits and sausages and stuff before we went out fishing. So that's how much of a trooper she is for you, Jason.
Yeah, she's gangster.
Gangster.
I would have to say time. I run out of time. I don't get to go as many places as I'd like to go. And that's just because I honestly don't have time, and we all know why. Vic wants to know, is facial hair a prerequisite?
This is all I can do, so that's all I got.
It's not a prerequisite,
like Paul Bunyan.
But it definitely helps with the aerodynamics of it all. And also helps you look a little majestic.
He's right.
Yeah, mine's a newer acquisition. We're working on it here, but I will tell you, whenever that 200 horsepower Yamaha VMAX gets to going on the boat, this thing starts to split in half. I never knew that happened until like I grew longer face.
Welcome to the wind beard.
Yeah, I like the wind beard. I like going fast in boats.
Wind beard's a thing.
That's just weird. Do you like braid it? Like when it blows in half, do you like grab a hold of it?
It just gets puffier. You come out and you just look like a chipmunk. There's nothing that you can do about it. You can call Jameson Redding for any beard tips. He has some pretty grand ones if you want to know the truth.
We're looking for sponsors for this podcast. So if you have a beard or oil company and you want to sponsor the Jackson Kayak Dock Talk, drop us a link below, and we're kayak
Willie's beard butter.
We'll go for free oil.
We're down for it. Collectively, could all three of you give one tip to a new kayak? If you guys could give one tip to a new kayak angler, what would it be? Just the one tip.
I think it's confidence. If there's anything I could give, like just being confident in what you're doing. Even if it doesn't work, just stay confident and it might work. I don't know. Like that's just something I've always tried using, manifest your destiny, dude. Like put it into words that might happen, But be confident. If you ain't confident, you ain't catching nothing, I promise you.
Agreed. I'd say relax and have fun. If Andrew wants just a tip, I would definitely say relax and have fun.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to zero. Yeah. Just don't worry about it. Just
don't
worry
try
about
to be a hero.
Don't be a hero. One fish at a time. Break it down by the hour. Like, I got 8 hours catch 5 fish. Big deal. If the bite's slow, don't worry about it. Just have fun.
There you go, Andrew. That's the tip. Jesse, back in here again. What's the hardest part about kayak fishing tournaments for you gentlemen?
Practice. Getting enough time to kind of look around and all that, I think, is probably the hardest thing sometimes. I'll just show up on the day of and try and figure it out a lot of times. I think hardest time, I said it earlier, like just having the time to do it sometimes is the hardest part.
Mr. Dale, how did you break through? This is for Josh, actually, because this was came up while you were speaking. How did you break through that tough time that year when nothing went right?
Yeah, man, I would say really just trying to reset yourself mentally. It definitely helps having a good support system at home, whether it's your spouse or maybe a close friend that can tell you you're being a dummy when you're being a dummy. But I think that having somebody that helps, kind of ground you and bring you back to earth and reset you mentally and helps with that is great. And even if you don't have anybody to do that, um, just some time on the water where you're not competing, go somewhere you're confident and somewhere that you catch fish, and go out there and throw your favorite bait until you catch them. And if you don't catch them, keep throwing the damn thing until you do, and that help you reset.
There you go. So yeah, we've made it through an hour of rambling and doc talk here. So we're gonna kind of close this thing out. Now, with this being said, all of this, we're telling you why you should fish tournaments. Um, Perhaps tournaments aren't for you. Perhaps you go try one out and it's not really your thing. That's no big deal. You can enjoy fishing in multiple facets. There's a million gazillion different ways to go fishing. And I think all four of us would encourage you to fish your way, how you like it, if it's in a tournament, if it's not in a tournament. Like I said, maybe that's not your vibe. Maybe just getting up early, going to breakfast, and being those two old dudes that roll out in the tracker boat in the morning into the sun while the tournaments are taking off and you're going out there to catch crappie. Maybe that's your vibe. Maybe that's how you want to do it. And we are here for it. So, do you enjoy your fishing? Remember, check us out, jacksonkayak.com. Hit us up, hit up one of our dealers, do a demo. We've got a sweet giveaway going on with Eco Fishing right now. Win yourself a Jackson Kayak Coosa X. Hit up their Instagram, hit up their Facebook, get involved, and you might take home the grand prize. I'm going to let these guys say their final words, and we're going to sign off. So, Jason, thank anybody that you need to thank, and yeah, tell them where to find you on the socials.
It's Jason Cassetty Fishing on everything, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. No, I just want to thank you for bringing us on. Thank the kayak community for being an awesome group of people to hang out with and call friends. Friends, family, loved ones. Love everybody. It's birthday month around here. 4 of the 5 kids have a birthday starting tomorrow and going to the 26th or 30th. I don't know. It's expensive. It's here. So no, I want to say hi to everybody at home. Come out and fish with us. Check out Jackson Kayak. They're awesome.
Mr. Josh.
Well, thanks for having me on, Chad, and guys, thanks for being on too. Thank you to Jackson Kayak in general. Eric Jackson himself for starting this amazing brand, and Emily and everybody else that continues to contribute to keep rocking it. Best damn boats on earth. I don't care what nobody says. But yeah, man, thank you to my wife and kids. Thank you to all my lovely sponsors and to all the trails I fished with out here. I'm coming for you. Hey, tight lines, sharp minds. That's all I got.
Marcas.
Man, I gotta thank Jackson. Gotta thank you, Chad. You, Jason. You guys really helped get me into it as much as I am. So it's awesome that you guys are still friends this deep into it. Thanks, Josh, for being here tonight and talking with us, man. You seem like an awesome dude. I'd love to fish with you, brother. And thanks everybody for listening. And I had a blast tonight, and I'm gonna keep having a blast fishing with y'all. So keep doing it.
There you guys have it. Doc Talk will be back June 3rd. New panel, new topic. Looking forward to it. So we will see you guys then. Cheers and good night.
Good night.
Later, y'all.
You got to click in stream.